cancel culture at it again, and this time at an event that I want to go to. Marty up north, how you doing?
I'm not canceled. I'm here.
You're not canceled, but an event that we're going to be going to. Well, actually, not the actual event we're going to be going to, but the event for Tucker Carlson in Edmonton. We're going to be at the one in Calgary. This is
the one in Calgary is slightly smaller, but the one in Calgary is the one where he's sitting on stage and having a one-on-one with Danielle Smith, the premier. So people aren't trying to cancel that one. That one sold out instantly. So then Tucker, a couple of weeks later, decided to put on a different second show in Edmonton. And in Edmonton, that's at Rogers Place. It's a much bigger audience, like 10,000 people, and they're trying to cancel that one or whoever it is, like groups. There's a, what do they call it? That thing. What's it called?
Change.org. They made a Change.org petition, which is
change. Yeah,
it's funny. I mean, so. This is, of course, 11,400 people have signed the petition already to get Rogers Place to cancel the Tucker Carlson show. I almost want to start my own petition for Rogers Place to encourage them to go against this petition and see how many people sign that. Obviously, thousands of people have signed up to go to it. Maybe that's petition enough.
Yeah, and like I honestly, I think this will go nowhere. I mean, it's a week away from happening, but and Rogers Place in particular, like they learned a lesson last year, with Pride. Like that was a big fiasco, like Rogers Place and the Edmonton Oilers and other teams. Remember that when they were doing like the Pride jerseys and stuff like that, and then that backfired on them. So these places, these entertainment places, they're semi-public venues, right? I mean, God, taxpayers pay a fortune. Like Rogers Place is not purely a private building. It's a government-owned, subsidized building. And their best bet for them is just stay out of politics, man. Like bring in concerts, bring in journalists, bring in whatever, shows, hockey, and ignore all the other stuff.
We are going to the one next week. This is on Wednesday, I believe, right? The 25th.
Yep. You're flying here to Calgary. Can't wait to see you here.
Looking forward to it. And we're going to be doing a little meetup afterwards, actually. So for everybody who's listening on the channel and you're in the Calgary area, you want to do a meetup. It's not just going to be Marty and myself. We've got an entourage going. We got a bunch of people, great people coming along. I don't want to announce any announcements just in case people don't want to. From the group.
Exactly. In fact, I don't want, like, we are lucky. This is basically a benefactor. So somebody who's very libertarian, pro free speech democracy, reached out to you and me and several others, and this gentleman bought a table at the event, and so we're going to be sitting at a table of 8, and he's invited 6 other, himself, so 5 other what I would call political commentators like you and I. So I know 1 or 2 people that are going to be at the table because I had people reach out to me. But we're not going to announce it until everybody wants their names known. But you and I are going to be sitting with. I think they're all good. I don't think we're going to be surprised. I think they're all going to be people we know. Yeah. And and then the event is downtown Calgary at the TELUS Center. Lots of security, but afterward, and it's a lunch, the thing that goes on till about 2:30. So afterwards, we're gonna sneak off and go to one of the local pubs on Stevens Avenue, which is right downtown, and we'll let people know where we're at for sure.
Exactly.
We'd love to see people.
So just for people who know, we record these on Wednesday evenings, so that won't be next Wednesday. So if you want to pay attention to where we'll be, pay attention either on Twitter. Or on the YouTube communities tab, because I'll be posting it there. So if you're subscribed to the channel and you're not a Twitter user, I will be announcing it there.
And Clyde, we could also do this maybe next. No, we couldn't do it Tuesday because you're flying here, but we could do it Wednesday. I mean, or Thursday. You're going to leave here Thursday morning. You'll be back home in plenty of time we could do this again on Thursday instead.
Easy.
Just delay by 1 day.
Yeah, we can make that happen. It would be Friday morning for everybody. On the next one. Everyone's used to watching these on Thursday mornings, but this has been a crazy week. Week in Canada. I don't even know how to get started on all the stuff that's happened throughout the course of the week. Where do you want to
We want to
start?
start with the more serious or the more ludicrous? Let's start with something. Let's start with the video that I asked you to queue up. The video of the NDP person. You haven't seen it, so
No.
queue up the NDP member of parliament. Let me queue it up for people just a little bit. So Trudeau has come back from his vacation in Jamaica, where first he said, I cleared it with the ethics commissioner, and then he said, I'm paying for it, or our CMP is paying for it, the government's paying for it, oh, my friend's paying for it. We don't know anymore. So now he's back in Canada, and there is this will be his 6th or 7th inquiry in front of the ethics commissioner. So now there's a committee set up to get to the bottom of Trudeau and who paid for his vacation. And so this guy was sitting at committee remotely, and listen to what he has to say. This is frustrating.
But we can already see that the Prime Minister's office is doing a bad job of being accountable to Canadians. We can already see that the Prime Minister's office has given inconsistent answers. We don't need to see the emails and potentially undermine the confidence that members have in the office in order to be able to establish that. That's established. Now the question is, notwithstanding the pontifications of the PMO and and the position of the day, whether those rules, first of all, were broken and whether those rules were adequate. But we can already see that the Prime Minister's office is doing a bad job of being.
So basically, step one of the committee was they want to see the emails that were exchanged between the Prime Minister and the ethics commissioner and all the correspondence as to whether or not he paid for it or not. Mm-hmm. And this MP is saying it's bad enough, and we don't want anything else that might further undermine Canadians' confidence in the Prime Minister's office. That's what he's saying. It would help
NDP if you stop propping him up. I mean, yeah, like we could just have an election and get rid of the guy, and we'd have no more ethics violations from the Liberals for a while.
This is such a weird stretch. Yeah, oh yeah, it's bad news, but nobody. Basically, he's admitting that he's admitting that he doesn't have confidence in the Prime Minister. What's his opening statement? We already know it's bad. He's saying that Canadians have lost confidence in what he's trying to separate. He's trying to say Canadians are perhaps right to have lost confidence in a Prime Minister, but they shouldn't lose confidence in the Prime Minister's office. Bullshit. If it's corrupt and if it's bad, spill the beans. If we need to, I don't know where this is going to go, but we're not off to a good start.
No.
And by the way, the NDP have blocked every, yeah, you're right, Clyde, when you say stop propping him up, they don't just prop him up and they don't just prop up the Liberals and bills and things like that. They prop him up in everything, right? They in committees. I mean, they've blocked so many committees this summer. It's terrible. It's terrible. But Jagmeet's paying a price for it. He's paying a price. I mean, he's
definitely going to.
Yeah, 338 Canada, a website you and I both like to look at, who's an aggregator of polls. He now has Jagmeet in 4th place, in clear 4th place. So it's Conservatives are steady at 196 seats they're forecast to, and then the Liberals, and then the Bloc moved ahead of Jagmeet. So the Conservatives are stealing seats away from the Liberals, and the Bloc Québécois are stealing seats away from Jagmeet.
I feel a little vindicated then in my predictions, saying that if the NDP were gaining in the polls, but the longer they hung on to power for the Liberals, they would lose in the polls. People would grow fed up with them and say, forget those guys. Why would I go along with the guys who were just propping up the last government? That's is it a favor here? Are they going to have the other guys prop them up if it turned around? Yeah, it just doesn't seem right. Now, getting back to the vacation thing, some people might say you're nitpicking. Why are you being so why are you making this big deal out of where Justin Trudeau gets the money for his vacations? Well, it's all about undue influence. It's all about who's pulling the strings of power. And if people are swinging favor for Justin Trudeau, well, that's corruption. That's absolute corruption. There should be no favors given to a prime minister at any time.
No, I agree. It's conflict of interest. I mean, like, I don't know who else is going at that. Like, he'll hide. He'll say, well, it's the resort of one of my friends. Okay, but and his friend says, I'm offering it for free. I don't know if somebody else didn't pay his friend money to have access to the prime minister. We don't know any of those things,
Exactly.
right? And
nothing's free at the end of the day.
Nothing's free. And people will go, well, the prime minister deserves a vacation. Absolutely,
Sure.
he does. Absolutely, he does. But at the same time, you know, when you agree to serve the country, whether you're the prime minister, whether you're a Supreme Court judge, or even a chief of police, you're agreeing to serve the country, and you don't have a completely normal life. You give up some freedoms. You know, Trudeau's not free to go vacation wherever he wants, but in return for that sacrifice, we provide him his own house. We provide him a summer cottage. You know. Drivers, clothing, perks, all sorts of things. That guy wants his cake and eat it too. And you know, as an example, another example, like the president of the United States, he doesn't go on vacation to Cuba or Mexico or places like that. He goes to Camp David. So in the Americans, you know, that's their system. When you're the president, we'll give you a lot of perks in exchange for the sacrifice you're making. And one of the sacrifices you make for 4 years is you go to Camp David on vacation.
It's not just government officials, though, Marty. I mean, you're an engineer. You know this full well.
Yeah.
If you're working for an outfit and then you go on vacation and they find out that it was actually the other outfit that was buying your vacation, and all of a sudden they've got some really good designs coming their way on there. So, yeah.
Conflict of interest even the perception of conflict of interest is taboo in my industry.
Exactly.
Or, you know, if I wanted to, I had to declare gifts that I would receive. I had to declare, all sorts of things. And hey, Clyde, in my business, I even had to declare my wife's holdings or whatever, you know, and if she worked for a competitor. And I've worked for lots of businesses where, this is going to be a good segue. I worked for lots of businesses where employees and relatives couldn't be hired. Like every business I've ever worked for, I could not have hired my son.
Yeah,
and he's an engineer, and I could not have hired him. Even if I said, "Oh, he's not working for me; he's working for Frank in another division." Most companies said, "No, we don't want that headache. He's you know, we don't do family business." So, and that was leading me to another segue, and maybe we don't want to cue it up too much, but there was an MP, another liberal scandals. There was a liberal MP named Lisa Hepfner. She's only been elected a couple of years now. She's a Hamilton MP. She was a radio host in Hamilton. And then today we found out that her husband, who works for the CBC, makes $185,000 a year. He has to repay back his Serb. So he collected Serb, and he wasn't entitled to collect Serb. So like when I look at that one, that's another example. I'm like, she's an MP. She's the one who makes the rules around mandates and around Serb. Her husband now benefits from a rule she's made. She should recuse herself, or he should quit his job, or whatever. And then he collects it illegally. You mean to tell me she didn't know that her husband was collecting money illegally, and now he has to repay it and there's no consequences? Like it's like it every week it's another scandal like that. Like, God, I just, frustrating.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it never ends. And then there's all kinds of people who, and I've heard stories of people who are on unemployment when Serb came around, and they were automatically kicked off and put onto Serb, only to later find out that they weren't eligible. But they were already collecting unemployment that they were eligible for, and it really messed with a lot of people's lives, this whole thing. So there were people that were ineligible getting it. And then there were people who were eligible for other programs, kicked off of that, and just people just getting screwed around.
You're jogging my memory, but Serb was a fiasco. It was implemented so quickly. I mean, they paid Serb to kids that were 15 or 16, which technically are dependents of their parents. They paid Serbs to people who weren't even Canadian citizen. They paid Serb to prisoners. They paid Serb to dead people. It's crazy who got Serb. And then I remember when Serb rolled out, I was still working in those days. And, Serb was rolled out in these weird periods, like, a period, it would be like January 3rd to January 17th, and then the next period. And so the periods that Serb corresponded to, the 2-week period for Serb, didn't correspond to 2-week pay periods adopted by most of industry. And at the end of the year, when we were submitting T4s to our employees, they wanted us to distinguish between the money they receive from Serb and the salaries we paid them, and cross-reference to the periods. And we couldn't do it because, for instance, I pay my employees monthly, and Serb was in like weird. Oh my God, Serb was a fiasco. Yeah. Now, it ain't over. Serb's big brother was SEBA. Mm-hmm. And SEBA is the Canadian Emergency Business Account. So that was set up to help businesses. And in that and there's a reason I'm talking about this. It's very timely.
I had my tool truck guy come on the show and explain how he got screwed over by this.
Oh,
system.
okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah. The audience, if they watch that, they'd be pretty familiar with this.
Well, I'll just go super quick. The government lent businesses up to $60,000, mm-hmm. and that was like 2-3 years ago. And now, and the businesses were supposed to repay it. The time to repay it was extended, but the newest deadline is January 18th. Is that today or tomorrow? I think that's tomorrow, right? So, yeah. So businesses have to start repaying. No, not part of it. They have to repay the whole $60,000 tomorrow. And if a business repays the whole tomorrow, the government said, we'll forgive $20,000, but you got to repay at least $40,000. Most people aren't even in that position. Most small businesses are just barely recovering right now from the government shutting them down and everything else. Mm-hmm. And so now they're trying to borrow money. So what some businesses are trying to do is repay borrow to repay 40 to be at least forgiven the 20. The banks are lending them money at 12.5%. One guy sent me a note the other day saying, like, is this math correct? I'm like, holy shit. Because the businesses are making money. The banks are making money on top of these guys in the short term because they know they're in a pickle. And
that's
so
brutal.
It's brutal. And the most sensitive thing right now, a sensible thing would be for the government. People ask Freeland, like, can you extend it by another year? Like, come on, man. You know, we're not talking about, well, we're talking about peanuts when it comes to the government.
It is just kicking the can down the road. Like these people aren't going to have it in a year either. They extended it a year ago, and this is the thing. Yeah. Now a lot of these business people, they're not even being they're not being forgiven that portion of it. So my tool truck driver, he came on to say that they were going to make him only pay back a portion of it, but then he ended up having to pay. He has to pay all of it. And that's what they told him. Like, forget it. You don't get any discount on this.
And you know, like you and I are libertarians. I mean, if a business legitimately went under, you know, I don't have a total amount of sympathy, but this is not the events of the last 2 years are not businesses, you know, mismanaging. I mean, these are businesses that were, you know, whether they were a hairstylist or a gym or something like that. Like, can you imagine being a gym during through COVID? You know, I know guys who did that, own the gym, and then your gym is shut down because of government mandates, and you're just barely getting back on your feet. Or a restaurant, and then just as you're getting back on your feet, you're getting hit with a carbon tax, and you're getting hit with this, and you're getting hit with more paperwork, and you're, oh my God, like we're not business friendly. Like we've never been a country that's business friendly. Let's just put it that way. But these days we're especially brutal and cruel to our businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. That just actually reminded me of a story that came up, and this was in the news recently from Reuters. Of all places, some Canadian oil firms await Trudeau's fate rather than cut emissions faster. They're actually saying, now forget it, we're not doing it. December 19th, this was when this was written, some Canadian oil and gas producers say that they won't rush to accelerate emissions cuts until they see if unpopular Prime Minister Justin Trudeau serves long enough to implement his proposed oil and gas emissions cap. So people are expecting him gone, so they're just waiting. Our economy is basically in a standstill until he's gone. Might as well get rid of him. Like, why are we hanging around? A lot of people are on hold because of this.
I mean, another example of that is Premier Scott Moe out of Saskatchewan. Like starting this month, Scott Moe told the Crown Corporation, the natural gas company there, to not collect a carbon tax. And now people are like, "Oh, he's breaking the law." No. The laws in this country are legal in a certain sense, but they have to be tested. So Mo's smart. He's very smart. So he's like, "I'm not going to do it." Trudeau, you can take me to court and prove that you're like anybody listening, anybody who says the law is the law. Bullshit. Every law has to be tested, and I'm allowed to defy a law and let the court decide whether the law is valid. So what Scott Moe is doing, I have no problem with that. People say, "Oh, it's setting a bad precedent." No. The bad precedent was the government of Trudeau who passed a bad law. So right. Mo's is playing the game, and he's like, "I'm not going to pay it." But in a sense, I think he's doing just like these oil companies are doing. He's like, whatever. In a year, Trudeau will be gone, and I won't be challenged on court. So, well, you and I know how long is anything.
Well, he could declare it moot. He could declare it moot because he's not there anymore. I wouldn't want to go fight anything in court these days because you're going to fight it. It's going to take, well, here, let me show your viewers. People know this, right? This is a traffic notice. And I'll probably won't pay that for at least a year because I'm a bit of a dick. I wrote a letter saying I can't, I got the speeding ticket in Edmonton, and I wrote a letter saying, "I'm sorry, but I can't make the court appearance." So now they've delayed it by a month, and in a month from now I'm going to write another letter saying, "Sorry, there's a snowstorm, I can't make it." I've done this a few times, and people say, "Marty, you're playing the system, just pay the ticket." I'm like, no, the ticket is bullshit. This is a speeding ticket from a photo radar on a Sunday night or Sunday morning, doing 51 in a 40 zone. So I know what they're doing. They're dropping the sensitivity on their photo radar to the absolute minimum and just using it as a cash cow. So I don't think the law is moral, and I think I have every moral obligation to play the system. People criticize me for doing it, and I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm allowed to do it, and I'm doing it. Yeah, well, the laws are written the way they're written, and if they weren't written that way, they've changed them. So that's the way it is.
And people say you're just costing taxpayers money. I'm like, that's the whole game. I want to be, it's a $114 ticket. So if it costs them more than $114 to collect it from me, I'm paying double because I'm going to pay the $114 plus the taxpayer. As a taxpayer, I'm going to pay the salaries of the clerk. But if we all resist, some of this stuff goes away. That's how it goes.
Well, let's talk about what's costing motorists more money these days, and that's the fact that they're going to have to be driving electric vehicles in the future. And this has really been put to the test this past week, over in Alberta. That's Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. It's been very cold here in British Columbia. Of course, I mean, I'm still on the coast, so we saw minus 20. Like we never see that, but no, it was very short-lived, and it's back to like -5 or whatever outside.
We had minus 36 during the day.
Yeah, that's
it was
awful.
dropping to minus 44s at night, minus 45s. It was cold.
But the main thing that's being discussed right now is these automobiles and the electric cars, and how is this going to work? And it's a multifaceted thing. So there's the power grid, and we're going to get to that. But there's the fact that they don't work in the cold. Batteries just don't work in the cold, and this is kind of an automatic thing. Let's get to this clip because this is great.
A lot of demand for power, and here in downtown Calgary, some evidence of that at the Tesla lot, where many people, of course, are trying to get that charge and telling us that their Teslas are only getting about half the mileage as they usually do under these extreme cold conditions.
Half way to the office take like all 140 kilometers of the duration, so I have to charge in the middle of the day in order to get back home.
And that's just one example of the kind of demand.
That's just unreal. You got to charge it halfway through the day just to get home. I mean, one person on Twitter, Oilfield Trash, was saying, how about this? I'll throw 100 liters in my truck and it'll get me around for a week. It doesn't matter how cold it is.
No, like as an example, a close bedroom community to Calgary is, let's say, Airdrie, right? So people drive in from Airdrie. So from your house in Airdrie to downtown Calgary is, let's say, 75 kilometers. So what these Tesla owners are realizing is that they get in their car in the morning and it says 140 kilometers. So they don't even have enough to do a round trip to Airdrie. So they come to Calgary, and then in Calgary they're struggling because if you just plug in your, some of them were cheating. They love to go to the, their employer might have a 120 volt plug-in in the driveway in the parking lot for their block heater or something like that. You plug your Tesla in there.
It's got nothing.
It's got nothing. In fact, it's so cold, it's not even doing anything. Like it goes in and it comes out just as fast. So they need to find a supercharger, and the superchargers there was lineups, and then so you use 75 kilometers to get downtown. Then you got to take your lunch hour to go find a supercharger, and you're freezing cold because it's minus 30. So you're sitting in your Tesla, turning on the heater, and now you're watching your battery just go and suck down.
It's
and
just
then
a dead short through a resistor, right? That's a heater.
Yeah, and then you're keeping your fingers crossed, hoping that you're next in line. They were pushing cars to the chargers because people's batteries were dying while they were there. God,
too
and then
funny.
Let's talk about let's talk about the grid, or let's keep talking about this.
Okay, well, we're gonna get to the grid. I wish I queued it up. I didn't have it queued up, but the
CBC
did an article
promoting cars.
Yes.
Find that one. That one.
I'll have to find it. But the CBC actually ran an article saying that electric cars are the best bet in the cold weather, and this like usually you have sources or you have some sort of statistical analysis. They went based on two electric car enthusiasts in Manitoba.
They talked to Bob and they talked to Larry. Bob and Larry. Bob and Doug McKenzie had an opinion on cars,
and the whole thing was the idea was that these people were really happy because they're hot right away, not like a gas car that you have to warm up. But the battery's done really quick, so they didn't get into that part of it.
No, this was a good awakening this week. I mean, and then so let's talk about the grid.
Yes.
Let me just, in Texas is having problems. A lot of places are having problems, but Alberta had a problem this week. So I'm just going to throw out numbers right now. On Thursday, Alberta set an all-time record for power from the grid. So we used 12,300 megawatts of power, all-time record. And our grid is sort of is pretty much private. So the grid itself is owned by the government, but all the power producers are private. And so putting power into our grid, we have coal-fired power plants, we have natural gas-fired power plants, solar, wind, biofuel, a nice mix, right? And so all told, we have the ability to put in about 20,000 megawatts in the grid. So on Thursday, we needed a record high, or Saturday, sorry, we needed a record high of 12,300. The grid was only putting out the grid was only putting out 11,900, let's call it. So we got close to being out of power. And when you looked on there, out of the 20,000 that we have, 6,000 is the renewable side, 4,000 of 4,000 of wind, and 1,600 of solar were zero. They could not. Every windmill in Alberta was shut down, and people say it's because there was no wind. No, it's because there's no wind. It's because the blades are made out of fiberglass. It's because the lubricants and the generators are oils. The oils were gumming up. They weren't going to turn, and if they had tried to turn them, things would have snapped. So everybody who has a windmill, shut them in. The solar panels were under like an inch of snow, and it was cold and it was dark. So 6,000 megawatts of renewable energy did zero. So all the power we used in the critical, and then there was a warning that, so they asked us to,
I just wanted to add to that. There's a lot of people that'll think, oh, well, we'll get, solar, we'll get people to wipe them off so there's no snow on them. You got to understand, when it's that cold, it's the Sahara of snow. When it's that cold, the snow is so light and fluffy, it's just going to blow right back onto it. Like, there's no getting it off. It's landing right back on.
It's powder. It's icing sugar. It's powder. Like it just, absolutely. And so the call went out asking Albertans to reduce their power. And they were even specific. So in that emergency announcement, they're like, don't plug your cars, don't charge your cars, don't use your block heaters, don't and reduce your microwaves and everything else. Luckily, Albertans responded, the power came down, and there was no failure. So then there's people who say the grid in Alberta failed. No, folks, no. It worked perfectly fine. We got to the edge and we brought it back. What failed on the weekend? Renewables, man. They failed miserably. Like they were, and okay, so renewables work in the summer and they allow me to, whoever's got renewable can sell it. But given a choice now, I think people have realized that if we're going to spend another couple of $1 billion in the province to install power, man, I'll take a gas-fired power plant, or I'll retake a coal-fired one over any of this solar stuff. And then when people were critical of Danielle for putting a moratorium on more solar, now who's talking? Danielle Smith is so smart, man. Like, she's not talking out, like, she's not grounded in ideology. She's grounded in pragmatic, practical solutions. So her freezing the future, whatever, no, it's a good decision. Man, people are so ridiculous. People said, oh, look, they're blaming what happened on Danielle freezing. I'm like, if Danielle freezes an investment today, that's an investment that's going to come online like
12 years from now. Yeah. Something
12
like
years
that.
from now. Like, it's not, like, oh my God. Yeah. And thank you to British Columbia, and thank you to Saskatchewan. I mean, you guys, opened up a tap and sent a little bit of power our way. But then I found out, I always thought BC was like all hydro. More than half your grid is actually gas fired. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Well, there's every time we try to put in a new hydro dam, there's a bunch of environmentalists that try to shut us down. It's not stopping. It just doesn't stop. Like they're never happy. It's either the fish or whatever. And I understand fisheries and all this stuff, but we have to make power. We have to make power. We're not going to go back to the Pleistocene era or whatever. We're not going to go back. We're not going to go back to the Stone Age. We're not going to go back to hunter-gatherer stuff. Get over that. The world moves on, and they're going to move on without the vegans.
And two quick things while on this subject. So one, I had a funny interaction with somebody, and I'm so disappointed in some of my fellow humans. I met a guy who told me, plugging in my Tesla doesn't affect the grid. I plug it in at home, and I'm just like, God. I'm like, do you generate your own power at home? He's like, no, I just plug it in my garage. I'm like,
you're on the grid. Come on, man. Really?
We're done. Yeah. How do I help that? And then I got to make this dig. Some of the Alberta power infrastructure worked just fine, but it worked even better back before Notley got elected. So when I look at the power in the wind and solar, they were installed in the last 3, 4, 5 years, and Notley canceled all of the coal, but that's all bygones now, and I don't care. Danielle will get us back on track, and Rachel Notley today, like 2024 is off to a great start. Rachel Notley yesterday announced she resigned.
Goodbye.
Yay!
Goodbye. Yeah.
Goodbye. Now the question is, who's going to replace her? Maybe Jagmeet Singh wants to do like Jason Kenney did, and maybe Jagmeet, instead of being a small fish, or what's the expression? Small fish in a big pond. Maybe Jagmeet wants to try and come to Alberta and be a big fish in a little pond.
You can have him.
No, I don't want him.
Well, BC doesn't want him.
In fact, you can keep Jagmeet, and we're sending Rachel. I heard she has a cottage somewhere in the Okanagan or whatever, so you're probably going to get Rachel.
Yeah, no thanks. Oh, no thanks.
Yeah.
Now I want
hang on. Oh, well, maybe you want to go there, but I was going to say, like, 2024 is off to a good start for me, right? So, ideology of wind and solar and renewable met reality, and reality won. Rachel Notley quit. Trudeau's still being hammered, and this week the WEF ain't going so good, and that's another good news story.
Oh, the WEF. I can go there. I mean, right away we have Elon Musk giving digs at the WEF. There's the grand opening. Elon Musk saying, "Wow, I didn't know Elizabeth Warren was at Davos." This is the clip.
Ang turma chaya no cambarro anuri, no camai, no camwaka, na anuri, no yuyuá, na warrão chinã, vupan que tu chinã chaval aqui.
They sure have a great way of opening up their ceremonies over there.
Is this like what do we call these? Is this like a land acknowledgement or something like that?
I don't know. Does anyone really take the time to really understand? Do they even take the time to really understand it?
Just go forward a little bit, though. Did you see what she does after she kind of spits in her hands and then she goes and spits on the participants?
No, okay.
Just go just a wee bit further.
No why sharai.
Oh, you're gonna get it.
That's a big dose of COVID or a big dose of smallpox or a big dose of polio coming your way right now.
Oh man, that's a tradition. That's a traditional thing. Now there's other traditions, and this is what was trending on Twitter today, and it's been trending a bit lately. Libertarians. Why is that? Well, it turns out they got one of those libertarians down in Argentina, El Presidente Javier Milei, and he showed up to Davos to have a little chat.
Hang on, don't play it just yet. How do you think he got in? Do leaders get an automatic invitation regardless of their political?
I think so.
Wow. Okay. Cool. He got in. Let's hear what he had to say.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Today, I'm here to tell you that the Western world is in danger. And it is endangered because those who are supposed to have to defend the values of the West are co-opted by a vision of the world that inexorably leads to socialism and thereby to poverty. Unfortunately, in recent decades, motivated by some well-meaning individuals willing to help others, and others motivated by the wish to belong to a privileged caste, the main leaders of the Western world have abandoned the model of freedom for different versions of what we call collectivism. We're here to tell you that collectivist experiments are never the solution to the problems that afflict the citizens of the world. Rather, they are the root cause. Do believe me, no one better placed than us, Argentines, to testify to these 2 points.
Now he nails it there. He nails it there because
Klaus is not sitting down there, because normally Klaus is sitting there. So Klaus walked away.
He was not happy about that. No. So this is actually a testament to what happened in Argentina. So back in the 1940s, they were a vibrant economy. And the socialists creeped into government, and it's been a steady decline ever since. And then the government's been growing and growing and growing, getting bigger and bigger until just recently. And obviously we had Klaus Schwab bragging that he penetrated the cabinets of Argentina and all these other places. So the people were in absolute poverty. I know a guy from Chile, I work with him, and he says when they would go on vacation, they would go to Argentina, and everything would be super cheap because their economy was ruined by socialism. So they finally clued in, and they got themselves a libertarian for president, and he's making waves.
And they have other neighbors, and not quite in that part of the world, but Venezuela is another example. I mean, Venezuela's got huge oil reserves, and dove into socialism hell and is a miserable country. Argentina, similar. Uruguay was a fantastic. Actually, Uruguay is still doing okay. I mean, there's a few middle South African countries or South American countries that are doing okay, but. Yeah, I don't know how he snuck in at at Davos, and kudos to the translator, by the way. That guy, the Spaniards speak fast, and that guy was translating like real time, very well. My Spanish is rusty, but I could tell that guy's doing a good job. So,
but that wasn't the only thing that kind of slipped past the. Past, I guess, the censors. I got this clip that really cracked me up, and this one was of a UFC fighter as he was doing an interview. And this one, I mean, the Canadian press somehow got into the gala to ask questions of this guy, and he recognized right away, and he had a message to send to Canada. This is really funny.
Respect from your teammates, from peers. You said you've had great interaction with fans pretty much all the time. I did want to ask, you're in Toronto. Welcome. Glad to hear. It's been great.
Are you Canadian?
Of course I am.
Are you part of the fucking opposition? Are you?
I don't know how to phrase that.
You got like fucking. Yeah.
Well, I did want to ask.
Did you vote for Trudeau?
I'm not going to say.
And let me tell you something right now. If a man says he's not going to say, like, if you ask a motherfucker, did you vote for Biden? He's like, well, I'm not going to say. That's none of your business. He voted for fucking Biden.
Sean,
hey,
Sean, I'm glad you had great experience.
So this is what I'm talking about, you guys. The enemy of Canada. All right.
That's what it's got to be. It's got to be. We've got a pretty supportive gay and lesbian community in this city. I did want to ask you about something you wrote a couple of years ago. You said, if I had a gay son, I would think I'd.
Oh, look, another. I'm saying to you, the swamp, you guys, the swamp.
You become a champion, you become a star, and someone.
Let me ask you something. Are you gay?
Have you had the chance
No,
to interact with a more diverse
are you? Let me know. Are you gay?
Could I get an answer?
Well, no, I'm asking. This is a part of. Are you a gay man?
I'm an ally of the community.
Okay. If you had a son and he was like, you had a son, he was gay, you'd be like, oh man, you don't want a grandkid?
No problem with it.
Oh man, well, dude, you're a weak fucking man. Dude. You're part of the fucking problem. You elected Justin Trudeau. Like, when he sees the bank accounts, like, you're just fucking pathetic. And the fact that you have no fucking backbone, and has he shut down your fucking country and seized bank accounts? You ask me some stupid shit like that, go fuck yourself. Move the fuck on, man.
That doesn't really answer the question, but I did want to ask also things you said about the trans community. You said this past October.
I like what he says a little bit further out. Actually, let's play it all. Sure.
They'll have to accept me or denounce me when they know what, and we'll know what they stand for.
This guy's like, this Canadian's not that Canadian.
Are you still going to use your fight time to kind of speak on that?
Here's the thing about Bud Light.
This is good.
Here's the thing about Bud Light. 10 years ago, to be trans was a mental fucking illness. And now all of a sudden, people like you have fucking weaseled your way into the world. You are an infection. You are the definition of weakness. Everything that is wrong with the world is because of fucking you. And the best thing is the world's not buying it. The world's not buying your fucking bullshit you're fucking peddling. The world is not saying, you know what? You're right. Fucking chicks have dicks. The world's not saying that. The world's saying, no, there are two genders. I don't want my kids being taught about, who they could fuck in school. I don't want my kids being taught about, their sexual preference. Like, dude, this guy is the fucking enemy. You want to look at the fucking enemy to our world? It's that motherfucker right there.
Wow.
Asking these stupid fucking questions.
Yeah.
Sorry, I told you UFC has to be nicer. Lance, am I still doing this? Did I cross any lines? A little. What the fuck? I didn't say the F word. You just brought this fucking guy in here to piss me off.
You just did, but just to follow up.
The follow-up that cracks me up.
You just did.
No, I didn't say it.
Right there you did.
Different F word, different word. Yeah. I'm trying to be good, man. I'm trying to be good. I like the fucking gays. Everything. I've never. You guys think I've ever shit on a gay man or shit on a gay woman? I like the gays. It's fucking freedom. We still have it in America. We'll teach you about it. You guys don't have fucking freedom of speech. I'm surprised what I'm saying is probably gonna get fucking. I'm probably gonna get the fucking Canadian government to arrest me. So I don't give a fuck who you fuck. I don't give a fuck what you want to do in life. But don't fucking tell kids about it. Don't teach that shit in fucking school. Don't fucking push your agenda. Don't try to fucking brainwash people Don't try to go past parents. Don't try to go past all this shit and brainwash people, you fucking cuck.
You just let him have it.
He's saying what's on the mind of a lot of people, and you know, we're probably not all that vulgar, but I think there's definitely. I'm optimistic about what he's saying because I do see a tide turning. We're fed up with this bullshit. Like, you know, I following that, I made a tweet today because I was on not a podcast, but I was on a space yesterday. And, you know, as a space host, you're seeing somebody's name and then I unmute them and I said, go ahead. And, you know, I said, go ahead, Jane, what's on your mind? Because the person's name was Jane. And I said something else. And the person said, oh, excuse me, but you misgendered me. And I'm like, what? And then she or he said, my pronoun is shim. And I said, oh,
a shim is a thing that holds something away from something else.
Yeah. But I guess it's a combination of she, him, or whatever. Anyways, I said, oh, fuck off. Like I literally said, fuck off. Like I'm not gonna play to your mental disorder. You obviously didn't get enough participation ribbons in school, and now you need to do this. Forget it. Like, you know what? I'm here hosting a space to talk about. I was talking about the energy and the grid and everything else. So sorry, but and some people got upset. They're like, you're excluding somebody from the discussion. I'm like, nah, they're not being reasonable. It's nothing complicated. And how could I misgender you anyways? I can't see your freaking face. Like, anyways.
And if you just said Jane, you're welcome to speak. There's no genders even being spoken there. So that's it. Go ahead, talk. Yeah. The thing is,
in fact, you're right. I don't think I misgendered. I think they immediately wanted to just make a point. I'm like, whatever, move on.
Yeah, well, some people are just looking for a fight, and that's from my my perspective. If you come up with some weird new word that doesn't actually even exist in the English language, and then you're trying to enforce this, telling people they have to speak this way, compel them to speak a certain way. I mean, for me, it's just, okay, you've just alienated yourself from me. From
the discussion.
Yeah,
you could have participated in an intelligent discussion with a couple of people, and you did something that,
my knee-jerk reaction is to just not engage with people like that. So, you're just unreasonable. Okay, I'm not going to speak with you. That's at the end of the day, that's where it's at.
Back to that fighter. First of all, his cauliflower ears, like, holy shit, man. There's a guy who's taking a lot of punches, right? Like you don't want to mess with that guy. Like you don't want to mess with that guy. And then did you see his T-shirt? I don't know. Like his T-shirt says, "A woman in every kitchen, a gun in every hand." So I don't know whose logo that is, but I think it's a campaign logo is somewhere. I don't know what it is. And somebody because I like that video and what he had to say. So somebody said, "Hey Marty, what's his T-shirt say?" And I said, "What, a woman in every kitchen and a gun in every hand." And they're like, "Well, so you endorse that?" I'm like,
it's tongue in cheek.
Well, isn't that? Or I said, "Isn't that Hamas's motto?"
Oh wow. Okay, you're going there with it. I just think it's tongue in cheek. I mean, people have the right to say things hyperbolically. I mean, that's what it is. We all go on Twitter. Yeah. I call it the hyperbolic chamber because that's what it is, right? It's hyperbole out the window, and that's the way we joke. That's the way we do things in jest, and that's how you make a point is by blow things out of proportion and reel it back.
Yeah. Totally. Did you see that? It's probably buried too deep, but I had a cute video of two dogs barking at each other on my Twitter feed.
I did see that one. May be buried too far. I don't have it at my disposal. But I did want to get into the one story because we are running quite long here. I did want to get into the story of the Quebec police that say you're not allowed to. Now, okay, so this is a big problem, not just in Quebec, and it's all over the Western world, where people get items delivered to their door via Amazon or other, delivery services, and then people are coming and stealing them. They're stealing them off their porches, and it's a real issue. Now, people, what they've done is they've bought Ring cameras or all these different
doorbell cameras or whatever,
any sort of security device, so that they can catch these people. Now, when you give that security footage to the police, they can only, oh, okay, well, we'll do something with that, hopefully. So people have been going to social media with their ring footage, showing these thieves stealing from their porches. Now, the Quebec police have come forward and said, you cannot do this. It's infringing on their right to privacy.
Yep.
The thieves that infringed on your right to property ownership.
The police is basically saying that the right to privacy supersedes the right to
property
or living safely on your property or anything. Yeah, absolutely. It's I don't know what led them to say that, but I find that well, and it's not just. Oh God, I don't even know how to unpack this one. What's your thoughts on this one? Like, it's
well, so they're saying that they don't want vigilante justice is what they don't want.
Yeah,
they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what kind of vigilante justice might happen other than somebody loses their job because they're ID'd as a thief. They'll lose friends.
In fact, to me, it would be vigilante is if I posted the guy's picture or gal, and then somebody says, "Okay, this is their address," and then I went to their house. No, that's true. That's truly being a vigilante. But if I post their address and I say, or if I post their picture and I say, "Does anybody who know who this is?" and somebody says, "Yeah, it's Frank," then I can take that information. Basically, I'm doing the detective's work. That's how I would view it. So how they could classify that as being a vigilante. I mean, here in Alberta, you guys might even have the same thing. Like, there's two big Facebook groups dedicated to stolen cars, because here in Alberta, especially me, like, I have 4 hidden cameras on my property. So if somebody comes on my property, it's a game camera. It automatically takes a picture. If my truck goes missing, I'll have pictures of it, and I'll put those pictures on that Facebook page, and then within, it's pretty quick, we can find where that guy is. So no, that's, and that's a failure of the police, man. Like, why are people taking the law in their own hands?
Well, that's what it looks like to me. It looks like the police are embarrassed that other people are doing their job, and they're doing a much better job of it.
A much better job, yeah. If my car gets stolen, I'm going to go on Facebook and post pictures from my game cameras long before I even call the cops. Calling the cops right now for me is a second thought.
Yeah, because you'll find out more about who took it, and then you'll go to the cops. Hey, guess what? I found the perp. Here it is.
Yeah,
there it is.
Yep. Here's a license plate number, CXC338. Go for it.
Go get them.
Yep.
That's exactly it. But I mean, part of this is, if I was an employer and I found out through social media that one of my employees was stealing from their neighbors, I'd think twice about keeping them around. I mean, if they're going to steal from their neighbors, why wouldn't they steal from me? Right? I mean, it's
there's how many videos of MPs stealing stuff do we have floating around the internet? I mean,
is that true?
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah. I mean, there's a couple of MP, like there was we'll have to talk about this one a couple of weeks from now. There's an MP in Ottawa or maybe he's an MLA. No, I think he's an MP who used to be like a door repairman of some sort, and he's on video in somebody's house taking a piss in their sink. That's one guy. There's an. You know what? This reminds me. Maybe we'll quickly end it on here because I mean we could talk about this all night long. But I was talking today. Same thing. I tweeted about this today. I'm a registered firearms owner, and and the reason I talked about it is I have to renew my gun permit. It expires this summer, so I have to start the process now because it's going to take 6 months. And it reminded me that in the process of renewing my gun permit, I will go through background checks and all sorts of things. It's rigorous. And I made a comment that I guarantee you 1/4, maybe even more, of Canadian MPs would not pass the background check that I'm about to be subjected to apply for a gun permit. So my background check will check whether I have a violent history, whether I've ever had, restraining orders. They'll call my spouse. They'll call 2 family members. And if my spouse says Martin's a bad guy, that permit will be denied. They do all sorts of credit checks. And then maybe if I'm lucky, I'll get my gun permit. And I brought that up. Like in the House of Commons right now, apart from the bullshit that we saw earlier of, you know, Trudeau breaking ethics violations and stuff like that, our House of Commons is full of MPs who have gone bankrupt, who have restraining orders against them, who are not allowed to travel in foreign countries, who went to jail, who committed fraud against citizens, the criteria for becoming an MP is none. Like what's the test? Like it's almost nothing. You know, nothing. So weird topic. I don't know how we got on it, but yeah,
I don't know.
Man, we can keep talking all day. We never even talked about Darshan because I
was just about to say that because I wanted to do a recap on my podcast with Darshan Maharaja. It was amazing. It was great talking about immigration and how there's a whole other side to the immigration story that we never touch on. And I think we're gonna have to save that for another chat, and we'll dive deep into that.
All I'll say is that anybody who didn't see that one, go watch it. Go watch it. Go watch it. Go watch it. I mean, I watched it, and I love Darshan, and I'll just paraphrase or just say one quick thing. It was listening to him, I was laughing, and I was so happy because he talked so passionately about a scam. And then you'd ask him a question, and he'd be like, "Oh, that reminds me of another scam related to this," you know. And then he'd talk about that, and then you'd ask him another question. He's like, "Oh, well, since you asked, like it was like scams piled on top of scams worth $22 billion. Like that's insane.
Crazy. It's crazy, yeah. And that's what's fueling all of this. And if you want to know how this whole thing is being fueled to the tune of $22 billion, profits being made, people are being put into a subclass in Canada of indentured servants, and it's really awful what's happening, and it's all on our backs and it's all on their backs, and people are making money off of it.
Foreign students are getting loans forgiven more easily than Canadian businesses are through CEBA.
That's crazy.
Like it's crazy, right? When you think about it, like
we could get into that, but I want to remind everybody at the end of this one that we will I'll be in Calgary. You're always in Calgary, but we'll be meeting up, and we're going to be going to the Tucker Carlson event on Wednesday the 25th.
Whatever Wednesday is, Wednesday next week.
We'll be going to that. I'm going to make an announcement. We'll put it out on Twitter. We'll also put it out on the YouTube communities tab. Make sure that you subscribe. Hit that notification bell. It lets you know when I make these when I put these announcements out. And we'll be doing a meetup probably mid to later afternoon. We'll be meeting up in Calgary downtown at some bar. We'll make an announcement letting everyone know.
Come buy us a drink. Are you going to bring merch or anything like that? I was going to say, nah.
No, probably not.
You don't want to be traveling with 15 suitcases, but come buy us a drink. Come buy us a drink. I drink dark beer. Anybody want to be on my good side? Just buy me a Guinness.
There you go. All right, Marty, where can people find you?
Marty Up North on Twitter, and if you're so inclined, Marty Up North on YouTube, where I do little videos of some of my backpacking adventures.
Amazing. All right, this was another good one, and next week we're gonna have to make an exception for it, but tune in for the next one that we do.
I'll pick you up at the airport on Tuesday night.
Sounds good.
Cheers.